seated. All right, it's my recollection that the next step in this trial would be for the next witness for the state.
Yes, Your Honor. The state would be calling Detective Donald Seaman again. Before that, though, we did have a stipulation that was provided to the court that was supposed to be right in the record.
Yes, I do have it in front of me, and you may proceed to read the stipulation.
Oh, I didn't know if the court wanted to read it.
But that's an option, so I'm happy to go ahead and do that. The parties stipulate that tooth buds collected from baby boy Doe were compared with DNA standards from Mark Ritchie and defendant Gail Ritchie. This analysis was completed by Ristina Lakova, an appropriately trained and qualified forensic scientist employed by the Geauga County Regional Forensic Science Laboratory. The parties stipulate DNA testing confirmed the defendant, Gail Ritchie, is the mother of baby boy Doe. Ristina Lakova found the probability of maternity is 99.9999998%. The parties stipulate DNA testing confirmed Mark Ritchie is the father of baby boy Doe. Ristina Lakova found the probability of paternity is 99.9999998%. The parties stipulate a swab collected from a clear plastic bag collected off of Sidley Road by the Geauga County Sheriff's Office in March of 1993 was compared with tooth buds from baby boy Doe, as well as DNA standards from Mark Ritchie and defendant Gail Ritchie. This analysis was completed by Lisa Moore, an appropriately trained and qualified forensic scientist employed by the Geauga County Regional Forensic Science Laboratory. A presumptive test was performed on the section removed from the clear plastic bag to determine whether blood was present. The presumptive test indicated the presence of blood. The swab collected from the surface of the clear plastic bag matched both the DNA of baby boy Doe and defendant Gail Ritchie. The DNA profile of Mark Ritchie was not found. That is the end of the stipulation.
Thank you, Your Honor. So at this time, we would call Detective Seaman to the stand.
Raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, so help you God?
Detective Seaman, you heard me ask each witness whether or not they give permission to have their face shown on camera here today while testifying.
I do.
All right, permission granted, so you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning, Detective. Could you please state your name and spell the last name for the record?
Sure. Good morning. My name is Detective Donald Seaman, S-E-A-M-O-N.
And where are you employed?
I'm currently employed by the Geauga County Sheriff's Office.
How long have you worked there?
I've been in law enforcement for over 22 years. I was previously employed by the Lake County Sheriff's Office for about 15 years. I've been here at the Geauga County Sheriff's Office for about 8.
And are you a certified peace officer in the state of Ohio?
I am.
And what's your current position?
I'm currently a detective assigned to the General Duty Division.
And could you just briefly describe the education and training you've had to complete in order to achieve that position?
After high school, I did pursue a degree in criminal justice. I did also join the Army. I served as both a paramedic and a military police officer, primarily reserve duty. However, I was activated after 9/11, and I served active duty for about 10 months. In 1999, I attended the police academy through Tri-C and the Cleveland Heights Police Department. I graduated from the police academy in October of 1999. I was hired by the Lake County Sheriff's Office in December of 1999. I completed my field training program to become a full-time road patrol deputy. Throughout my career, I've had numerous continuing education courses, both through college and work through Lake County. I did eventually become a field training officer, training young deputies. I did serve on the SWAT team, and I was assigned to the Detective Bureau there. initially investigating low-level felony cases, and eventually moving on to higher level felony cases. I have been involved and responsible for multiple homicide investigations. I did serve on a task force with the FBI for a number of years, and we investigated internet crimes against children, so child sex crimes, child pornography. I did receive additional training and education and experience with that. And just throughout my career, continuing education as I've advanced through my career.
Now, you said you're a detective in the General Duty Division.
That's correct.
What are your everyday duties and responsibilities in that position?
We are assigned to investigate complex investigations, felony investigations, investigations that will take us outside of the jurisdiction of Geauga County, where the road patrol deputies have responsibilities to respond to calls. We can travel outside those areas to do follow-ups and investigate these crimes.
Okay. Now, are you familiar with the investigation into what's been known in the community as Geauga's Child?
I am.
Did you have any involvement in the case?
I did.
And when did you first become involved?
I had worked with the investigators for years, even at my previous employment. Was aware of the investigation when I came here to Geauga County and was assigned to the Detective Bureau. I learned from other investigators that were currently and had been investigating the case. I did review the case files. It's very extensive, as Chief Neas had stated earlier, or the other day. The efforts that they went to were truly amazing to try to bring this case to some type of conclusion. I did assist in some tips and leads that we had received, and we looked into those tips and leads. Unfortunately, those were not able to bring the case to any type of successful conclusion.
So did you take any different steps, anything that had not been tried yet?
I did. So in 2018, with the current advancements with DNA and genealogy, I looked into the possibility that we'd be able to use those new investigative tools in this case. I worked with the Ohio Bureau of Criminal Investigation and the Geauga County Medical Examiner's Office, and we contacted a private lab that was recommended to me, Parabon Industries. We learned that it was possible that there was DNA in a tooth bud that was suitable for comparison for DNA and genealogy. At that time, I approached the administration, both the Sheriff's Office and the Prosecutor's Office, to see if they would back the use of this new investigative tool. And to their credit, I believe I had the approval that day and a check for the money to initiate the investigation.
Okay. And can you just briefly describe the overview of what you went about to get the DNA processed and sent to this lab?
So if a normal citizen would submit their DNA to one of the genealogy companies, you would get a kit, and it would take your saliva, you would send that in, that would turn that into a DNA kit, which would then be submitted to the online databases for comparison. We weren't able to do that with Geauga's Child, so we did take the DNA that was extracted from a tooth bud that was sent to a private lab to be able to be turned into that kit, which was then turned into the genealogy sites and for comparison.
Now, based on your initial investigation into this type of technique, the use of DNA to get some leads, what were you hoping to get?
We were hoping that we would be able to identify close family members and to be able to bring the case to some type of resolution.
Okay. And what did you end up receiving from the lab after you submitted the child's DNA?
So the initial results that we received, they stated that there was not enough close family members at that time that were identified to proceed with the investigation. They recommended either we wait and see if additional citizens would submit their DNA for comparison, or they did say that we could on our own try to work with the online databases and establish a family tree. Once we establish a family tree, we could identify family members and collect their DNA, which then could be submitted and then helpful for them to assist us with the investigation.
Now, you mentioned online databases. What are you talking about specifically?
So there's one public database, or at that time, from what I understand, over the past 3 years, it's since changed. So I can only speak about when we used it from 2018 to 2019. It was a public database that people could choose to submit their DNA for comparison, so they could try to identify people in their family tree. And that database is called GEDmatch. There are other private sites such as Ancestry, 23andMe. The Geauga's child's DNA was not permitted to be submitted to those sites. They would not allow us to submit it to those sites.
Now, did you receive any potential matches when you got the results back from the lab?
We did. So I got a list of potential matches. At that time, GEDmatch did not require people that were submitting their DNA to provide accurate information like name, date of birth, address. All they were required to submit was a username and an email address. So basically, we got a list of usernames and email addresses of potential matches. The closest match at that time was a third to fourth generation cousin. Again, we only had usernames and email addresses of those people.
Well, was there any match that you found useful?
There was. So we were able to also compare the different kits to each other. So we were able to establish that there was two distinct families. One of those families was originating out of Doddridge, West Virginia. The other side of the family appeared to be based out of Lebanon, and it was very difficult to find records going back to that country, Lebanon, and we had found that some of them were born in Lebanon and then adopted into other countries such as France and England. So we decided to, and we didn't know which parent was which, whether it was mother or father, but we decided to focus on the family side that was based out of Doddridge, West Virginia, because we could find more records on those ancestors. Specifically, there was a match that was submitted. It appeared to be submitted by a gentleman named Vern Holden, and he actually put a real name into the username, and that name was Peter David Geauga. And that was where we based our family tree off of that match, Peter David Geauga.
Okay, so how, when you say you base your family tree on that name, what steps did you take to build this family tree?
So we compared Peter David Geauga's DNA to the other matches and established other people that were on that side of the family, if you will. And then we used anything from census reports, obituaries, birth records, death records, anything open source to attempt to identify other family members in that family tree. We did actually contact Vern Holden, who was the person that submitted Peter David Geauga's DNA. He did confirm that he did submit that kit and that it was his father-in-law who grew up in Warren, Ohio. Vern Holden lived in Omaha, Nebraska at the time, and he still does. With his help, we were able to expand on that family tree, and eventually, over a period of 6 to 8 months, I would estimate, we were able to build a family tree of over 1,400 people.
And did you find this this technique, this investigative technique, to be useful in this case?
It was.
And how so?
It was something new to us. We had never done it before. So it took us, again, we were doing it on our own. We did not have the assistance of Parabon at that time. We would take that family tree and select individuals in the family tree, contact them, and ask them to submit their DNA for comparison. We found later that most of them, or not most, but some of them, had already submitted their DNA to the private sites, being Ancestry and 23andMe, and all but one of them were willing to put their DNA into the public site, being GEDmatch, so that we could compare it to that of Geauga's child and the other family members that we identified. So essentially, we were able to take that 1,400 family tree, that ocean, and turn it into a pond of, essentially, we knew that the child was a grandchild of one of 10 siblings at the end of the investigation.
Now, you mentioned that the whole family tree is about 1,400 people, correct?
It is.
And was this in a computer program?
It was.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Yes, you may.
Detective, I'm handing you a thumb drive that's been marked as States Exhibit 7. Have you had a chance to look at the files on that thumb drive?
I have.
And what are the thumb drive? What are the files on that?
There is a PowerPoint that I prepared. It's a brief overview of the family tree and how we were able to get to those final 10 siblings. There is a recording of our interview with Gail Ritchey and a video of when we initially approached Gail Ritchey at her residence.
Okay. We'll talk about those other two other points, but the PowerPoint that's on here is a fairly accurate depiction of the portions of the family tree dealing with history.
It is.
Your Honor, with the court's permission, I would like to present the PowerPoint to the jury.
You may proceed.
And Detective, would it assist you in your testimony if you had a printout of the slides?
It would.
With you? And so, Detective, let's start with this first slide. I realize, jury members, I'm sorry, it is small, but could you explain to us what this first slide shows?
So this slide is of Peter David Geauga, who was basically ground zero where we started our family tree from this person. You can see Peter David Geauga and his daughter, and the unknown Holden would be Vern Holden, who was the gentleman that assisted us with this investigation. And then you can see the ancestors of Peter David Geauga, his parents being Peter Dower Geauga and Catherine A. Phillips. And it just continues to go back until Oliver Geauga and Ellen Ash, which they were both born in 1857 and 1874.
No, I'm sorry. Okay, so anything else with regard to this slide that is of any importance?
No.
So moving on to the next one.
Again, there's like 1,400 people in here, so it would be impossible to show it all on one screen.
But, so the next slide.
Actually identifies Peter Dower Geauga, who is the father of Peter David Geauga, who we started from. Again, he was born in 1904 in Doddridge, West Virginia. It shows his wife and his two siblings being Oliver Geauga and Nellie Geauga.
Moving on to the next slide.
Oh, mine are in this order again. I apologize, my slides are out of order. But that appears to show Peter Dower Geauga's information. Again, he was based out of Doddridge, West Virginia. And then his siblings, his wife, his son, Peter David Geauga, and then his parents and their siblings across the top line there. His mother, Peter Dower Geauga's mother being Ellen Ash. Again, she was based out of Doddridge, West Virginia, born in 1874. So what we were able to do is, between several of the initial matches, being Peter David Geauga and Nicholas Hickman, we were able to go back and find the common ancestor, and then start working our way down from there. And this is how we were able to go back and find that common ancestor between Peter David Geauga and Nicholas Hickman to start moving forward back down to where we could find the potential parents.
Moving on to the next one, this looks like an overview of the big family tree. What does this show?
That is where we found the common parent, and it is Adam Ash and Eleanor Purnell. So the common parent between Nicholas Hickman and Peter David Geauga was Adam Ash, and that's where we began working back down the family tree, eliminating certain sections by obtaining DNA from certain sections to be able to eliminate that section and narrow our search down again to that final group of 10. So Rachel Ash would be an ancestor of Gail Ritchey. So you can see that Gail Ritchey also shares that same lineage, being Adam Ash and Eleanor Purnell as the other matches. So once we were able to identify that the descendant was under Rachel Ash, then we would just focus under that section and again collect DNA from family members, eliminating certain areas as we went.
You mentioned Adam Ash.
Right.
And Rachel Ash.
The common ancestors of all the matches in this family tree, the non-Lebanese side.
And I see one of the names starred here, Rosa Spencer. What's the significance of her?
Rosa Spencer is an ancestor of Gail Ritchey. That's how we started working back down to find the child of, or where the child would be located in the family tree. And I'll find it here in a second. So Rosa Spencer was a descendant of Rachel Ash, and we focused then down on that portion of the family tree as we were narrowing it down.
Moving on to the next one. What does this represent?
Hang on one second, let me catch up with you. So this is the final 10. We were able to establish by process of elimination that the Geauga's child was a grandchild of one of 10 siblings. And those siblings are listed across the bottom there. You can't see them all at this time because that shows their spouses as well. But if you go to the next slide, it will show you the rest of them. And then one more slide, it'll show you. So these were the 10 siblings that we knew that the Geauga's child was a grandchild of one of those 10 siblings. 2 of those siblings died at a young age, one at 3, one at 16. We found that neither one of them had children. So again, we started collecting DNA from descendants of the other siblings. We were able to rule out the other 4 there, which are marked by the X's, by obtaining DNA from descendants of those 4 siblings. And we were able to determine that the child was not a descendant of those siblings. So at the end, we were down to the child being a grandchild of one of 4 siblings. The yellow X symbolizes we were able to get DNA from a descendant of that family member, but we did not have the results back at that time. So in May of 2019, we were down to the child was a grandchild of one of 3 siblings. Only one of them was alive, and he was living in Lyndhurst, Ohio. His name was Harvey Bland. Harvey was adopted at a very young age and was adopted into the Eastwood family. And so his name at the time that we talked to him was Harvey Eastwood. He was approximately 80 years old in May of 19, and we decided to go speak to him at his residence in Lyndhurst, Ohio, to further eliminate this family tree.
And this, again, we see information on
Mr. Bland Eastwood.
So let's talk a little bit about your interview with Mr. Eastwood. Again, without going into what he told you, based upon the information that he provided you, what did you do?
Based on that, we spoke to Harvey for quite some time. Initially, he was not able to provide us any information that was useful. After about an hour, he did provide us information that made us believe that either his daughter Gail or her sister was in fact the mother of Geauga's child. At that time, we secured DNA from both Harvey and his wife Nancy, and that would have been in May of 2019.
And based upon the results of that DNA testing, what did you then do?
It took about 2 weeks for that testing to come back. During that time, we started working on the other side of the family tree that was based out of Lebanon. I was speaking with an individual who was born in Lebanon. Her name is Laurentia Goes. She was adopted at a very young age into England. And she had actually created a Facebook page for people born in Lebanon that were adopted, trying to find their true biological families. Ms. Goes did tell me that she was connected through DNA through one of the private sites with a Judith Ritchey Novak who lived in the United States. I was able to find Judith Ritchey Novak living in Southern Ohio, so I made contact with her, and she told us that she was, in fact, connected through DNA to Laurentia Goes, and that Mark Ritchey was her first cousin. So we were, at that time, able to confirm that Mark Ritchey was related to the child, to Geauga's child, and that either Gail or her sister were the mother of Geauga's child, because the results came back from Harvey and his wife that they were the maternal grandparents.
So here we see the information for both Gail and Mark Ritchey.
That's correct.
And then,
how we were able to connect him.
then going back, connecting him.
We were able to go back and connect him to Judith Novak Ritchey and to Laurentia Goes.
Now, detective, then based upon all this information that you received regarding the DNA, what were the next steps you took in the investigation?
We secured search warrants for the DNA of Gail Ritchey, Mark Ritchey, and Gail's sister.
And do you remember what day you executed those warrants?
It was May of 2019. I don't recall the exact day.
So you said you had 3 warrants for 3 different people.
Sure.
What was the plan to execute those warrants?
At that time, we couldn't determine if Gail or her sister was the mother. We couldn't exclude her, so we obtained search warrants for all 3. We split up. Several detectives, Sergeant Janovich and I went to the home of the Ritcheys in Euclid, Ohio. Detective McLaughlin and Detective Vilsack responded to Gail's sister's house in Akron. Detective Janovich and I waited outside the Ritchey residence. We got there about 7 o'clock in the morning. We did see Mark Ritchey leave for work. We did see what appeared to be one of their living sons stop by and visit for a while. At about 3 o'clock, Gail Ritchey did exit the home.
Okay. And did you speak to her then?
We did.
And was that interaction recorded?
It was. So I had a pocket recorder on, and Sergeant Janovich had a hidden video camera that was inside of a coffee cup.
And now I believe you previously mentioned one of the recordings on here was, in fact, a recording of that interaction.
It is.
Is it a fair and accurate recording of that interaction?
It is.
Your Honor, with the court's permission, I'd like to play that for you. And just for the record, that is labeled as Exhibit 7C on this thumb drive.
Okay. You have any idea what we want to talk to you about? Because I kind of think you might.
Well, my parents said that you were in their house.
Mm-hmm. And what do you think that's about?
It was about a baby.
Yeah. What about?
A baby that was laughing.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell us about it? We're not here to judge you, Gail. We don't know what was going on at the time. We don't want to speculate either, okay? So I don't think you want us to speculate. We're not here to arrest you, okay? We are here to take your DNA, okay? And we would like for you to tell us your side of the story, because we'd like to know. As of right now, you're not under arrest. You're not going to be arrested today. But we want to know what was going on. I think after 26 years, it's time. Don't you? It's had to be weighing on you.
Should we go inside?
Well, what we'd like to do is get your DNA, okay? And then we would like for you to come back to our sheriff's office so that we can talk. You're not being arrested, okay? But we need to sit down and we need to hear your side of the story. Okay? Alright, so I'm going to get my stuff real quick. We're going to take your DNA here. I have a signed search warrant from a guy who became a common police judge. Okay? And I will give you a copy of that warrant. You will have a copy for you to keep. The DNA process is a very non-invasive process. I'm sure your parents probably told you. Just swipe a Q-tip on the inside of your mouth. We'll collect it real quick. And we'll go back to the sheriff's office. At some point today, we'll bring you back here. Okay? Alright, so let me grab my stuff real quick and I'll be right back, okay? Obviously our car's right down the street. I have all the stuff to grab that stuff.
And my employer know that I'm not going to be into work. That's where I was going.
Just 1 minute. Right now, I don't want you to make any phone calls in the morning,
I
okay?
was just going to text her.
Okay, where's your phone at?
It's right here on my purse.
Okay. Where do you work?
And Noreen Lonergan School of Dance. Alright.
Yep, that's fine. And then I'm actually going to just hold your phone just for officer safety reasons, okay? And we'll explain that to you in a second. Sure. So you're a dance instructor?
No, I'm not.
Oh, it's a dance school though? Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to give you a copy of the warrant, okay? This is your copy. Here's your copy of the warrant. That is signed by the Geauga County Common Police Judge, okay? Sorry to do this right here, but you have to understand that the warrant is signed here in Geauga County, so we need to execute it here in Geauga County. It is 3:07 p.m. right now.
She just texted her boss and just let her know something came up, so. Weapons, pepper spray, anything like that, do you? Okay.
It's a little dirty there, but go and see.
Check her though.
You want to take her first?
Yeah. Listen, I'm just gonna put your purse in the back.
Just for safety. There is a seatbelt in case not walk, okay? All right.
Hey.
All right, so Detective, first of all, I'd ask you, do you see Gail Ritchey in the courtroom today?
I do.
Can you please point to her and describe what she's wearing?
She's sitting at the second table on my left. She's wearing a white and black blouse and wearing glasses.
Your Honor, please let the record reflect that Detective Seaman has identified the defendant.
The record shall so reflect.
Thank you. Now, Detective, before we get into what happened further on this, we saw you collect DNA from Miss Ritchey, correct?
That's correct.
What did you do with that DNA ultimately?
That DNA was submitted to the Geauga County Medical Examiner's Office, and it did confirm that she was, in fact, the mother of Geauga's child.
Okay. And you mentioned that there was also a search warrant for Mark Ritchie?
That's correct.
His DNA. And what was done with his DNA?
It was collected on that day by other detectives as well, and it was submitted to the Geauga County Medical Examiner's Office, which showed that he was, in fact, the father of Geauga's child.
All right, so we saw in that video you guys got into the vehicle. Where did you go?
We drove to the Geauga County Sheriff's Office.
And what was the purpose of that? What did you do there?
To conduct an interview with Miss Ritchie regarding the circumstances of the baby.
Okay. And you, again, previously mentioned there was a third video of an interview on this thumb drive.
That's correct.
We've marked it for the record as State's Exhibit 7C. Is that a fair and accurate portion of the interview you conducted with Miss Ritchie?
It is a fair and accurate portion of the interview.
Your Honor, I'm going to be asking to play that. It's about just under an hour and a half. I don't know if you want to take a bathroom break first or go right into it.
Sounds like a good idea.
Do you want a bathroom break or play the tape?
Hang on one second, Mr. Mayor. So, ladies and gentlemen, as you're, we're going to take a brief recess. So, same instructions as always to do not discuss the case amongst yourselves. And we'll leave sufficient time so that anyone who wants to use the restroom can do so, and then we'll reconvene. So, we are okay.
All right.
Let's go someplace.
Anything, Council, would you like to put on the record before I miss everyone?
Now it'd be up to defense.
Nothing to say here.
Okay. See you in about 15, hopefully.
like midway point, but it hasn't been bad. So.
You should go out the front door.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry. Front door, thank you. Sorry about that.
No, no problem.
So we're going tomorrow.
We are going to okay. Same thing.
They're gonna have for sure high. Okay. And maybe we call you all.
Okay, one.
Yeah. Okay. It's so hard for the left people and whatnot.
See you. We're going to try to get your down and then her sister. And that's my girl. You can hear her.
Yeah. Yeah. Through that crazy touch life. Yeah. Yeah. Why would you do such a cycle thing? You can get your done this far after.
I got it. Of course, now you feel like I'm in a sugar coma. I got a little protein to go with them.
wait on them too.
Sounds like a meal.
Yeah.
It's longer today. It's going to keep it until after 5 minutes. So just trying to find.
Are you looking
So, yeah, but I'll keep you posted. Stuff on things. It's supposed to be at 5:30, so it's just going to be a long shower.
Yeah.
I see your target now.
Yep.
Worst case.
That.
It's
It's not like I probably would, but.
What were you going to do?
Well, like I said, I have another hour somewhere.
Maybe.
I actually have the first one.
Oh, yeah.
Take a second look at
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Thank you.
He's going to too, so. All right. All right. I'll talk to you later. Bye. school for videography or no? Where? Oh, Century. Okay. Strictly to go. So I worked for the Armed Forces Radio and Television Service, 5 years station. I used to travel around Europe covering news for 4 years. Good thing television.
Yeah.
Share about it. See stuff like that. Around the world covering news. So it was easy to the job afterwards.
You removed the red jacket.
Did you like that one better?
No,
Okay.
just, it's been your uniform. for a
Yeah,
long
I
time.
like it. You missed a couple days in between. I did mix it up.
It's just that I've known you so long. And that stands out as in your uniform for 35 years.
Yeah, well, there's only so many colors you can pick from.
You know Mike Genevieve.
I know Mike Genevieve very well.
So have you talked to Mike at all?
Not lately.
You know, he is, of course, he's been retired for a while.
Yes, he came here and
But he is incredibly thoughtful. He and I obviously cut our eye teeth here 40 years ago. And every year on my birthday, he texts me to take me out for breakfast.
oh my goodness.
And I haven't been able to do it since
Aw,
he's retired and I'm not.
where
At
is
least
he
until
still
next
here?
year.
I know he takes jobs across the country.
He travels all over the place in his mobile home. He flies that crazy
Broke
airplane.
his leg doing that.
They're all crazy.
He enjoys life.
They dive off of cliffs.
Yeah. But he has a motor on his, so he takes a running
But
start.
he also has,
The hang glider.
that's right, he's nuts.
Nice guy though.
You know, when he retired, actually before he retired, he became a police officer for the city of Bracknell. So he's worn a lot of hats.
He has. Well, he was able to combine court reporting with part-time police officer duties.
And, you know, he has purchased over the course of 40 years, 50 houses. He renovates them himself and manages them.
Amazing.
And now
I
they're
didn't
all,
know it was 50.
and now they're all paid off. So Michael Genevieve
Has arrived.
well, you talk about energy and being industrious.
Yeah,
He's that guy.
you're right. Very gregarious though, just a
So he
likable guy.
remembers. Radio personality.
It is, yes.
Essentially, hi, how are you? Teenager.
Okay.
Yep.
When I was cross-examined, because of course.
Right.
Oh, gotcha.
Okay.
Okay. I understand.
And he stands out.
Kind of right.
Oh, I'm sure.
Oh, my goodness.
In all my years, that's never happened.
The child.
It wasn't effective, did it work?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I know.
Okay.
Correct.
In fact, I thought, we are doing, I'm going to remember one day, I I mean, for the closing arguments. Just like that. And then go up to there. I mean, that's he has said that.
I look.
Okay. She is almost.
I can pull up this section where it is just confirming that. Well, go ahead, let me know. I don't want to talk. Let me tell them what I'm
Now, you're not, you don't know. You're not running for
Yes, there's never the case in front of attorney.
I understand.
Say, 2018. You might think she is the reason why the it's that her closing was
Joe's.
and she made the monster.
This was the only one. This was the only one.
But he has this chance
Because that covers like 3 pages.
He does.
Yes, yes. And there are a lot of attorneys on this that
I think that was right.
the mediocre.
Yeah, this is right.
There's something
Okay.
comments on. Sam is one of those, but he does want trial skills too.
Okay. Okay.
Sometimes there's some videos like very big.
All rise.
Please be seated, everyone.
Thank you, Your Honor. And again, at this point, the state would ask to play the recording of the interview for the jury.
Can I do so?
Thank you.
Okay. My partner. Is there anything else we can get you? Do you need to use the facilities or anything, Gail? For sure, okay, there's some issues there for you. As we indicated, Gail, at the house, our intention is at this point not to arrest you, not under arrest, okay? And we would like to get your side of the story, though. We just don't want to do a different route, so the kid come in or anything, that's just not a good situation. Obviously, it was complicated. But I do need to, because we brought you back here, I want to go over a couple of things. At this point, you're not under arrest, okay? You are free to leave. Okay, so I'm going to just read you your rights real quick. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say will be used against you in court of law. You have the right to an attorney. We'll provide one free for any questions you do that. You can stop any other questions. You understand that?
Judge, I'm going to pause this for 1 second. Is anyone having trouble hearing?
Folks, are you able to hear?
If you turn it up a
a
little
couple
bit.
people.
Yeah.
So it's up at 100% on the computer and on the TV.
There's no ability to put it through the speakers here. No?
Now we're calling our IT people in. I don't know if either of you have a theory.
Microphone.
Is there a card jack on the side for a speaker, for an external speaker?
It looks like it.
There is?
I have a speaker in my...
I've got some in my office.
Okay, all right.
I'm gonna get.
Let's see what Anita comes up with.
Also, I'm getting my computer here.
At least I get my exercise.
This can highlight either here, put the stuff just put in, and then the jack can go over the computer. There's a volume on this, and if that doesn't work, then this is just okay. Sure. Oh, okay.
Is that the...
Okay, we're back on the record. The problem is obvious. We've got a little bit of a sound issue here. We might as well let you go back to the jury room and relax for a few minutes while this is being straightened out. Maybe it takes moments, maybe it takes a little bit longer, so let's see.
I pushed it back. I think you're really mother.
Yeah.
Seeing the auxiliary. You want them to not trust. It's playing loud.
Maybe that jack doesn't work for... Is that not working?
We're trying to find the right output.
We had
Did you switch it to external speakers? The control panel? Okay. No, you're coming through the screen. It's not seeing the speaker.
Oh, wait, is it still plugged in?
Oh,
Let me plug it in up at the top.
there's an auxiliary in here, and the auxiliary out. We need IT.
Okay, I'm sure you can try to work, but
Okay.
where's a teenager when you need her?
Hey, are you, can you come over to Andre's place and we're trying to get external speakers to within the smart board? Or if you have like a Bluetooth speaker, or you want to bring another set with you. Thanks.
Yeah, now try it.
Aux in.
It's not loud enough.
Yeah.
Well, you got to work. Here's your home speaker system.
Yeah, just like. Funny how many people have shoulders everywhere. Right. Is it 100?
So people messing around, now it's only coming out of that there, as opposed to the screen itself.
Oh, you could hook up to your speaker. Where's that coming from?
Yeah.
Is that volume? Well.
Okay. Well, we had it, it was coming through here, it was louder, and we were trying to experiment.
Oh, you get 12 sets of speakers.
Could be a stereo now.
So, this is how it was, but we just needed it louder to snap this.
I think this one might be better.
You couldn't go too far because you didn't know the road, so how would you get that?
Louder than it was.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Is anybody with you in the car?
No.
Yeah.
For sure. Okay. Is that going to be enough?
Pick the leaves up.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'll stick around.
Well, this one, let's see.
I should grab this one first. No worries. Or if that one still isn't sufficient, then I'll have this one. All rise.
Okay, seated. which has been fixed, so you may proceed.
Thank you.
You doing okay? Okay, my partner is coming in. Got you water. Is there anything else we can get you? Can you use the facilities or anything, Gail? For sure. Okay, there's some tissues there for you. As we indicated, Gail, at the house, our intention is at this point not to rush you. You're under arrest, okay? And we would like to get your side of the story, though. We just don't want to do it during your house, have the kids come in or anything like this kind of good situation. Obviously, with the complicated. But I do need to, because we brought you back here, I want to go over a couple of things. Again, at this point, you're not under arrest, okay? You are free to leave, okay? So I'm going to have to just read your arrest real quick. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say will be used against you in court of law. You have the right to an attorney. We'll provide one for you free before any questioning if you desire. You can decide to answer the question. Do you understand that?
I do.
And with that being said, we do appreciate your cooperation. Obviously, you had indicated that your parents had told you that we had been out, just to make sure that you kind of knew that this day was coming. Now that we were going to be coming out to talk to you, and you know that we got their DNA, which is what ultimately led us to you. And what we would like to do is, we're not here to judge you. We don't know what was going on in your life at the time. We know that there probably weren't as many options for people at the time, and but with that being said, we'd like to get your side of what happened.
At that time, my husband and I were dating. We were sexually active. I did use contraceptives, but apparently one didn't work. I did not know I was pregnant at the time. I still had my menstrual cycles. And then my menstrual cycle ended up stopping.
Okay.
I don't know how long they were. You need to know that. I don't know.
But at some point during the pregnancy, they stopped.
Yes, it did stop.
Do you know about when that would have been
They don't.
in relation? Was it wintertime? Is there anything you could kind of put to it that would tell you as about when those menstrual cycles stopped?
I want to say about 3 months before the baby was actually born. And I honestly do not remember the date or the day when the baby was born. I do know it was in winter. I was at work. I was a nanny for a family in Sugar Creek. I was waiting for them to come home from school. I hadn't been feeling well at all that day. The next thing I knew, I was giving birth to a baby in the toilet. I didn't know what to do. Kids hadn't gotten home from school yet. The only thing was baby in a bag. have no idea what the sex was. I never looked at it. I took it out to my car. I placed it in the trunk. And cleaned up the bathroom.
Was the baby still in the bag at that time? Or did you put it in something else?
But,
Like a garbage bag?
mm-hmm. Yes. I went on with the rest of the evening with the kids. And I went home.
Where were you living at the time?
My parents. I was
In
still,
Harwich?
yes. I wasn't sure what to do. No one knew. And then we had and I don't know the time frame from when to when, but camps that were associated with Koinonia out here. I came out with our youth group for a weekend. I got in my car and left the camp for a while. I got in my car.
From Camp Koinonia?
Yes.
You had trouble sitting there, I thought.
Yes. I got in my car and just drove. I don't know where I ended up. And I just ended up stopping on a road. I don't know which road. And I took the bag out of the trunk. And I laid it in the woods. I didn't know what to do.
How far from the camp were you?
I have no idea. I really don't know. I don't. Other than driving to the camp, I really don't.
You couldn't
No.
go too far because you didn't know the road, so how would you get back, right?
I guess.
Was anybody with you in the car?
No. No, I was by myself.
About how far off the road do you remember you went? Like, with the bag? Like, how far from the road were you went? Or was there anything specific by there?
Nothing specific, no.
Nothing that seemed out to you or anything?
No. I remember stopping on the road. There was a lot of snow. I do remember a lot of snow. And walked it as far as I could, and I left the bag.
Did you ever follow or read any stories or anything on the news or see a news clipping, stories or anything like that about anything?
I did not. I did not know the baby was found.
At what point do you know that the baby was found? Was it recently? Was it a long time ago? Or
No, you were at my parents' and
so that's the first time that you had known that the baby was found?
that a baby was found.
Now getting back to, you said you were at this family's house in Shaker Heights when the baby was born, right?
Yeah.
Do you remember their name or where they lived at?
I do.
What was their name?
I'd rather not.
And why is that?
Just
Well, you gotta understand, Joe, we need to
Okay.
kind of verify some things, and I'm not trying to give you a hard time, but, obviously what you've told us, but we need to go back and try to verify some of those things. It's been a long time, so, and you said it was during the week, correct? Because the kids weren't home from school yet?
that is correct.
Right, so you were kind of a nanny in the afternoon?
I was a nanny all day.
All day, okay. But you said that some of the kids went to school?
There were 2 children.
There's 2 children, and they would go off to school?
Yes.
And then what time would they come home from school?
3:30.
And you would stay till about what time?
6. Usually 6.
6 o'clock, and then you would go home, and that's when you went home from there?
Yes.
Okay. So, do you remember what day it was? Was it Thursday maybe, or Friday?
I honestly don't remember the day or the month.
But you said you went to a weekend camp that weekend, right?
I don't know if it was that weekend. It may have been a whole week
Okay.
before. I don't remember.
So you don't remember if the baby was in their trunk for a week or just a couple of days?
It could have been.
It could have been as long as a week?
Possibly, yes.
Okay. And you said that you were in the bathroom of the home
Yes.
when the baby was born, but nobody else was home at the time?
No.
No, you were by yourself?
Yes.
Okay. Obviously, there would have been, the afterbirth and the umbilical cord. How were you able to, cut the umbilical cord? You didn't cut the umbilical cord?
No.
No? Okay.
I did not.
So you left just basically everything attached to the baby?
I did.
The afterbirth, everything was still attached to the baby?
Yes.
And obviously, you know that the baby was born alive.
I don't remember. I don't recall it ever crying.
Okay. But it's not like it was stillborn or anything. I mean, the coroner's report shows that it actually was breathing.
Okay.
So at some point, there had to be something kind of that you heard or saw, and the baby had to be moving, or
It's possible. I don't remember. I remember picking it up and placing it in the bag.
did it actually fall into the toilet when you gave birth?
Yes.
So everything just kind of fell into the toilet?
Yes.
Okay, not onto the floor or anything like that?
No.
Okay, so the baby was actually in the toilet?
Yes.
Okay. And then where did you get the bag from? All that kind of stuff?
I believe it was under the kitchen sink.
Under the kitchen sink, so just a normal trash bag?
Yes.
Do you remember what color it was or anything? Was your white, black?
I believe it was black.
It's like a dark colored trash bag?
Yes.
And everything was still attached to the baby when you,
Yes.
when you put it into the bag, was it still moving or anything?
I don't recall it moving.
You don't recall?
No.
You said you were able to clean the bathroom up prior to the kids you nannying returning home?
Yes.
Okay. And did you, after you put the baby into that bag, did you immediately take it out to the car, or was there some time lapse while you were cleaning?
I probably cleaned and then took it out.
Okay.
I don't remember what.
I understand it's been 26 years, you know, and
I don't even remember what year it was born.
you'd be safe to say, you know, it was some time between when the kids would have left for school and when they returned from school.
Yes.
When did you marry your husband?
94.
So it was prior to that, correct?
Yes.
Okay. When did you move into the house that you currently?
September of 93.
Okay. And was it prior to that that this baby was born?
Yes.
Because you were still in that home, correct?
Yes.
And did you move right in with Mark into that home?
Yes.
In September of 93?
Yes.
And you're positive it was before that?
Yes.
Were you at that camp at all, you know, during those couple of years, or were you and Mark involved in that camp or anything during that time frame? Oh, you said you went to a weekend camp, right?
Right. With the big chaperone some of our youth group in the church.
Was Mark there as well?
No.
No. So Mark, was he ever involved with the camp up there?
Yes.
He was. Okay, at that age or later on in life, or?
Well, not. I mean, he went as a camper.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't go as he was never a counselor.
So he would have went in when he was younger then, correct?
Mm-hmm.
But what age did they basically age out being a camper?
Seniors.
Seniors in high school. So once you graduate high school, you're no longer an attendee. You can choose to be a counselor.
Right.
Okay. Right. So, but when you graduate high school, you can still kind of go that summer, correct?
Yes.
Right. So, and then after that, you're kind of aged out, if you will.
Yes.
And then you can come back as a counselor or something like that.
Yes.
Okay. How long before you moved into the house do you say that baby was born? Was it months, weeks, years?
Well, it was in the winter.
It was in winter. So was it like that winter before you moved in, or was it a couple winters before?
Maybe it's January of that year. I don't.
So you think it was that year in '93 when you moved into the house?
I don't remember what year it was.
It was cold and snowy.
I guess it could have been at the end of 92, maybe December of 92, but the kids would have been home for Christmas break, so it must have been January of 93.
January of '93, somewhere around there, that the baby was actually born.
Yes.
Okay. Were you active sexually with anybody else besides Mark prior to
I
that?
was not.
No. So you're confident that Mark is the father. Okay. Now getting back to the like how the baby was born and placed in the bag, the umbilical cord was cut. It was not still attached.
I did not cut it.
Now, how did that umbilical cord get cut then?
I don't know. I didn't cut it.
You didn't cut it?
No,
You're positive of that?
I am.
And obviously we're talking about 26 years, so there's, you know, as you said, that, you know, some things that you're not real.
Yes, I
Sure.
understand.
But there's no possible way that you cut that umbilical cord.
I'm almost certain I didn't.
possible, or are you positive that you had cut that umbilical cord? Because there's a couple of things, Gail, you told us a lot, but there's a couple of things that I'm kind of struggling with. And some of it is to do with the baby, because a full autopsy was done. The baby was found, obviously that's clear. And the umbilical cord was cut, and the coroner's report can show that the baby was born alive, and that the baby had taken breaths. So that tells me that the baby was moving, and there had to be some type of screaming or something that you heard or saw. I don't know if that's just something that you don't want to remember, obviously due to the circumstances.
It's possible, but I really don't remember it ever making a sound.
How about in the bag? Was it still moving around in the bag? Or had it kind of maybe drowned in the toilet? Or was it still kind of moving around in the bag? Well, I can tell you it didn't drown in the toilet because it didn't have water in its lungs.
No, I don't think it stayed in the toilet long before I put it in the bag.
So even in the bag, it's got some oxygen in there, it's breathing, it's getting some breaths, it's probably moving, it's got to be making some kind of noise.
I really don't remember it making noise. I really don't.
Or the bag making any noise? Was the bag moving, crinkling?
Not that I'm aware of. I suppose it could have been when I put it in the car.
But either in the toilet or when you quickly put it in the bag, it had to be making some kind of noise or moving around. But ultimately, due to your condition at the time, your intention was no matter what, you weren't going to keep this baby.
I didn't know what to do.
You didn't know what to do. But because of those circumstances, you didn't know what to do. Was it because you were young, because you weren't married? You're afraid to tell your parents. I understand you're Baptist.
I was definitely afraid to tell my parents. My father was very adamant about not having children before you're married. Because the sister and nieces all had children and didn't want that
I can understand that.
stereotype.
What else was going through your mind at the time? Why you said that, I don't know what to do, I'm not keeping this baby. What else was going through your mind at the time?
Well, I think part of it was more of just where I was at and worried about the kids coming home, and I didn't know what to do.
Because you had known for some time that you were pregnant. At least a couple months when you met and you were afraid to tell your parents that you were pregnant. So you had known for some time that you were pregnant. So, at least for a couple months, correct? You said initially you didn't know you were pregnant. You were still having a menstrual cycle, and that does happen.
And I think because of that, I didn't know how far along I was.
But you hadn't told anybody.
I had not.
And you weren't sure what to do.
I was not.
And did you intend on having the baby, or what were your intentions? You said it kind of come unexpectedly that day, but it sounds like you had made your mind up that you weren't in the right spot at the time. You weren't telling anybody. This was kind of what you were planning on doing, for lack of better words.
proposed.
I mean, had you planned, I mean, what were your plans? When you found out you're pregnant?
I don't know. I don't know what, I don't remember, I don't know what my intentions were.
Were you gonna, I mean, at least for some period of time, you know you're pregnant, you're gonna keep this baby, or you're gonna tell Mark at some point? Or you're just gonna get rid of it and act like it never happened?
I'm not sure. I've never been good at confrontation. So I think I always tended to keep things to myself to avoid confrontation. So I'm not sure what, I don't know if I ever had a plan or what I was going to do, or I don't remember.
What do you think Mark would have said if you would have told him at the time?
I'm not sure.
Had you thought about that? Like when you were going to tell Mark, or when the baby came?
I don't even know if I thought about it. I don't know. I don't know if I was going to tell him, or
Did you think there was going to be confrontation with him when you told him?
not in a bad way, but I've always had trouble dealing with things, situations. I don't know.
How long had you and Mark been dating when this happened? When did you meet Mark?
We went to church together, so I've known him most of high school. And then, I would say, I liked him when I was 16. Do you remember that? And then we separated for a while. And then I want to say when I was 17, kind of hooked back up again.
You've been dating ever since, pretty much, dating or married since 17? And when were you born?
1970.
So, 87-ish, you guys met? You were still in high school, right?
I was, yes.
And he was out of high school? So you had been dating for a couple of years
Yeah.
at that point.
Yeah.
And I'd say later that year you moved in together, and the following year you got married. Right?
93.
You moved in together,
Mhm.
and then you got married in 94.
Yeah.
So how do you think he would have taken it at the time? What do you think he would have said? Were you afraid that he was going to leave you? What was your concern with telling Mark? I can understand you said your dad didn't want you to have kids out of wedlock.
It was probably, yes, I was probably afraid that he would leave. Didn't want nothing to do with us.
And what makes you think that about Mark? You had obviously known him for quite some time.
That is true. think I was afraid also for what his family would think. I always go to the worst scenario and not the best scenario.
What was the worst scenario in your mind?
Emily.
That was the worst scenario. And you didn't want him to leave you. So, in your mind, the way to keep him is to not have his baby. Because you wanted to keep him around. Right? So that's why you hadn't told him, that's why you hadn't told your parents. And I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, so it seems like this was kind of your plan, whether or not it happened that day or another day, but this is what you had anticipated happening, or the outcome being. You weren't going to tell anybody, you weren't going to let anybody know that this was happening, and whether it happened that day or another day, this was your intentions, because you didn't want to lose Mark, and you didn't want to upset your families. I don't want to put back, was that your intention? It would appear that way. Because in your mind, if you tell Mark he's going to leave you, if you tell your parents you're going to be ashamed, and if his family finds out, you don't know what they're going to say. We're not here to judge again. But if that was your intention, then
I don't think it was my intent.
had you seen a doctor at all?
No.
No. Had you been to a doctor prior to that?
No.
No. You didn't go to a regular doctor? You didn't have like a family doctor that you saw if you got sick or anything like that?
No, once we were older, the pediatrician, we didn't, my parents didn't, make us go to a doctor.
You didn't have like an annual physical or anything
No.
like that? Did you play any sports in high school?
No.
No. Didn't do any kind of extracurriculars where you were required to?
No.
When's the last time you saw a doctor prior to the baby being born, what you said?
I was maybe 15 or 16.
You're 15 or 16 was the last time you went to the doctor.
Yeah.
So what would happen if you got sick, like a cold, or you got the flu, or where would you go?
We didn't go anywhere.
You can go anywhere. If you need antibiotics or anything like that, strep throat, ear infections.
I don't recall going.
Did your family have health care insurance?
I don't know.
You don't remember?
No, I don't even know if my mother has health care now. I don't know if we had health care then.
So you hadn't been to the doctor even when you found out that you were pregnant, you had never been to a doctor or anything like that? Did you think about seeing a doctor?
No.
Did something that came up in your mind, like maybe I should see a doctor? Obviously for a couple months you knew you were pregnant.
Right. I didn't. No, I didn't know who to go see, who to contact.
So for basically the last 26 years, you just kind of kept this bottled up inside?
Yeah.
So, right, anybody that you've confided in or knew that you were pregnant? Nobody knew that you were pregnant.
Nobody knows.
You've never told anybody about it?
Never told anyone about it.
How about Mark? How do you think he's gonna deal with finding out what happened?
I'm not sure.
What do you think he's gonna say about it?
Not sure.
How do you think he should go about finding out?
I'm hoping that I can tell him.
And what would you say to him?
I think I would just go through what we just went through and tell him.
You're not sure how he's gonna take that.
Sure, he'll be upset. really the only man that ever loves me. And I wasn't sure if we'd get married. I was always afraid of losing him. So I didn't want to lose him. And I think back then, my thought must have been that I would lose him. I started family better.
So you would rather lose a child than take the risk of losing Mark, the only man that's ever loved you. So that was your thought process at the time?
I think so.
That's something that, this is a very traumatic experience, and this is not something that goes away. This is something that, you know, obviously has been in your mind for the past 26 years. I can't imagine a day has gone by that you haven't thought about it.
Well, not ever knowing if the baby was found, I didn't.
So you never saw, I mean, there was news articles, newspapers, news stories, even up until 2016. There were news stories on WKYC and different news, and there was, you know, reward posters and all kinds of stuff. They had the ceremony for the baby.
It did happen.
You never heard that throughout the years.
It did not.
What through your mind when you found out that we were at your parents' house 2 weeks ago?
So my dad called me. So I was at home. And through whole anxiety and couldn't breathe. Kind of been like that for the last 2 weeks, off and on.
An anxiety attack?
I wouldn't call them attacks, just hypertension, I guess. Thinking about what was going to happen.
Did you tell your dad when you spoke with him?
Did I tell him what?
Did he know? Did you express to him that he was your child?
He did not.
Do you think he was able to determine that while he was on the phone with you when you had your anxiety strike?
I don't think so. I was short because I was getting ready to leave for work. So, and his memory of the details weren't the best, so.
Older. He's a little bit older and
He is.
kind of confused a little bit.
Yes. He had a massive heart attack 3 years ago, and this is So I just kind of let him ramble on like he does. I told him that I had to go because I had to leave for work.
So right now, the only people that you've ever talked to about this are the two of us sitting here in this room. There's no one outside of this room you've ever spoken to about this or that would know about this.
I have not.
The house that you said you gave birth at,
Yes.
where was that located at?
Shaker Heights.
Shaker Heights.
Woodbury Avenue or Woodbury Road.
Woodbury Road. What was the name of the owners, the last name of the owners?
Cantor McNulty family.
Cantor McNulty family. How long had you worked for them when this occurred?
I worked at, let's see, my twins were born in 97, and that's when I left. I stopped working in June of 97, or May of 97. And I had worked for them for 4.5 years at that point.
When you left in 97?
Yes.
You worked for 4.5 years?
4.5. It may have been, yeah, I think it was 4.5.
So you stayed working for them for the duration of time then after all this occurred until you said the birth of your twins?
Yes.
And those are your oldest children of the twins?
Yes.
Okay. Back to the day of the birth. You said you retrieved the bag from under the kitchen sink, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. What method of closing the bag up did you use when you put it in the trunk of the car?
I think I just tied it down.
Just tied it up. And it was a plastic, and you said black plastic trash type bag, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then you said you can't recall if it was in the trunk for a week, if it was a week had gone by prior to when you went to the youth retreat, or just a few days?
That's correct.
Okay.
I don't remember the time frame at all.
Would anyone else have driven that vehicle?
No.
That was your car, you owned that car? Okay.
What kind of car was it? Do you remember?
That time I had a Ford Taurus.
What color was it?
A tan.
Tan Ford Taurus.
Did you purchase the car, or was it something your parents bought and it was just, you were the only one who drove it?
I'm pretty sure it was in my name.
It was in your name?
So this was 93, so what year would that car have been? Was it newer, older?
It was older. It was a used car. I don't remember what year it was.
Do you remember how long you had it for? You still have it when your twins were born?
No.
No.
No. No. I don't even think. I don't even know if I can remember if I had it when we were married. It wasn't a very good car.
It was older?
It was.
What year did you get married?
94, October 1st.
October of 94. And you said you moved in, what, September of 93?
93.
And that's to the house that you currently live in now?
During your pregnancy, Mark never knew that you were pregnant. He could never tell. Did you remain active with him during that time frame?
I believe so.
Yeah. And you could never tell that you were pregnant. It never came up like,
He never said anything. I never said anything.
Obviously, at that time, you guys had to be talking about some type of a future together. Because just a few short months later, you kind of moved in together, and within a year and a half, you're getting married, so there had to be some kind of talk.
So we did purchase the house in '93, but he never let on that that he was gonna. I had no idea that he was gonna propose to me in December of '93.
So it wasn't even something you guys had talked about having a future and kids, and never came up in conversation. It just kind of came up out of the blue.
Right. I mean, we had talked about it, but he was, because of purchasing the house, just felt like it wasn't time that he could purchase a ring or anything like that.
Financially, he was kind of strapped.
Yes, he felt strapped.
But typically, people talk about, their futures and getting married and whether or not they want to have kids. And
yes.
so at some point, that had to kind of come up in conversation.
Yes,
like
I'm sure it did, yes.
And what was he always of the opinion he wanted like a large family, or what did you two talk about?
I think we both agreed that we thought 3 children was a good, nice number of kids.
So you both have wanted kids?
Yes.
And talked about having a couple, at least 3.
Yes.
That was a good number, so.
Yes.
And they had come up throughout your dating?
Periodically. I mean, it wasn't kind of conversation all the time.
No, I'm not sure it would be. But you guys talked about having a future together and,
yes.
and raising a family.
Yes.
So it seemed like you wanted to have kids.
Yes.
And eventually you did have kids.
Yes.
So again, what is it that was going through your mind there in March? That made you think if this was coming up in conversation and you guys were talking about having a future and getting married and having 3 kids, what is it that he wants kids? When you guys are dating and talking about it in the future, what is it that made you not want to tell him?
I was scared. I was scared to what my father would think. And I was scared just because we weren't married, and
You knew you wanted kids eventually.
yes, I didn't know that, yes. Yes.
You told us earlier, too, that you think, had you told him at the time, that he would have wanted you to keep the child.
It's possible, yes. But I don't think that was what was going through my head. That wasn't going through my head.
I understand you said you're scared, but I just don't quite understand what you're afraid of. Other than I understand your parents that you're pregnant out of wedlock. But as far as, telling Mark, you guys are dating for 4 or 5 years at that point at least.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are talking about having a future, you're talking about occasionally, not every day, but talking about getting married, talking about having kids, you both want kids.
Mm-hmm.
Later that year, he buys a house and proposes to you.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't, I'm struggling with the fact that you're scared to tell her. It's just not, there isn't one night thing.
I know, I don't.
It seems like there's more. And you're giving us a lot, but there's just something else that was going through your mind at that time. And I don't know what it is. If, again, I don't want to put words in your mouth if you just weren't ready at the time, or what was going through your mind. I can see if Mark says, listen, I don't want kids, I never want kids, I'm never getting married, but he's talking about it. And you guys are having conversations about it. You guys are even talking about we want 3 kids, and lo and behold, you have 3 kids. very shortly after, you're moving in, you're getting engaged, within a year and a half, you're married and living together.
I'm not sure. Really, it's not. Other than I was afraid of losing him. Because of it.
But again, he's talking about doing this, he wants to have kids.
I understand.
I would think most women would think opposite, that it was a way to keep him. That it would almost be a way to keep him. We have a child together and it's kind of a way to, but I don't understand how that would make you afraid to lose him. You guys have had a relationship for several years. You're in a relationship.
Yes. We were in a relationship. I was afraid. My father finding out. That's all I can think of. I was afraid of losing him. I was never felt certain that he loved me.
I can understand it.
Never the prettiest girl. I wasn't skinny. I was the smartest girl. I never thought highly of myself.
Was there a concern that it could be somebody else's?
No.
I could see that if you're worried that, maybe it was somebody else's and you're afraid to tell them. I just really struggle with that, seeing that, just in a few months you guys are moving in and getting married.
Well, we weren't even looking at houses.
I understand that, but again, it had to be coming up in conversation. Even if it's just occasionally. So you guys are building a relationship and been together.
Yeah, but it took me a long time to feel truly loved by him.
So again, was it that maybe the devil did root some of that love from you to the baby? And the baby would be getting his attention and you wanted his attention?
No, I don't think I thought that at all.
Let's take a little break. Step back. You need to use the laser or anything? Oh, I see. I don't want to do that. Just repress the hole here. You okay, Phil? I'm trying to calm down a little bit. Do you still have anything else in the
I just thought we'd let take a pause and everybody stand up and stretch. If you want to call.
And Your Honor, just for the record, we paused it at 1 hour and 27 seconds.
Okay, and there's a show time remaining?
Yes, there is 26 minutes, 29 seconds.
Okay, well, I guess we can resume.
time since we got maybe you think we should know about it?
Really?
Yeah. What's kind of taking a little while is we also had a search warrant for your husband, Wayne, too. Okay, because we believe that he was the father as well. We had kind of connected some family members on his side of the family as well. Not as extensive as we had on your side of the family. We've actually been working your side of the family for quite some time. We have probably 1,400 people on a family tree that we've amassed. Working the DNA back until we recently stayed in contact with your parents, but we believe that he was related to the baby as well. So.
You said that you and your husband, did you like him when you were 16? Did you guys date a little bit when you were 16?
We did.
What caused you guys to separate? You said you separated
He
as well.
just didn't ask me out anymore.
Okay, so you went on like a couple dates, or were you guys kind of,
Yeah.
exclusively seeing each other?
Oh, yeah, no, just a couple days.
On a couple dates? Okay.
You guys have like an argument or a disagreement over something specific?
No, he just never called to ask me out again. And then I reached out to him.
After a period of time?
Mm-hmm.
And how long was that period of time?
I was 17.
What made you reach out to him?
I liked him. I was curious if he'd go back out with me again.
And you said, obviously during the time around this event and before that you were sexually active with your husband now, your boyfriend at the time. When were you guys first active?
Until maybe 18.
When you were 18?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so, yeah.
So was it the second time that you guys started dating again?
Yeah.
Okay.
Did they tell you what caused you to have a miscarriage? Was there anything like we had some type of a medical issue? Or?
No, I just started bleeding during the night.
And you got taken to the hospital when they took you?
Mark took me out of the hospital.
Mark took you to the hospital? Oh, Christian.
Mm-hmm.
Did you disclose during that pregnancy that you had been pregnant prior?
No.
No. Did they ask you that?
No.
No, they never asked you if you had previous pregnancy?
No.
Any kind of doctor's paperwork normally when you go to a doctor? You said you hadn't been to a doctor previously for many years, so normally they make you fill out some, take paperwork if you want.
Probably filled out paperwork, but
So I would think that was on there, any previous pregnancies, especially when you go to see a gynecologist or something along those lines, that they would ask you, if you had previous pregnancies, previous, times that you lost babies. So I would think that was on there, but you don't remember. It was or it wasn't, or you don't recall?
I don't recall. It could have been, I don't.
But you don't remember if you would have put it out accurately or if you would have lied about that, about the previous pregnancy that you had?
If it was on there, I probably didn't mention it.
So you probably would have lied, correct? Is that fair to say if it was on there?
Yeah.
Have you ever gone back to the area where you dropped the bag with the baby in?
I have not.
Have you ever tried to find the area again?
No.
No?
you've been out to that camp or something, right? Because your kids went there, I think. And I think, do your kids work there?
Yes, I have 2 that are working all the time.
What do they do there?
My son is doing maintenance, and when Courtney's done with her first round of internship at a daycare in Geneva, then she'll go out and she's kind of program manager, I guess is a good way to explain it.
You've been out to the camp since this incident, correct?
Yeah.
How does that make you feel when you go out there? Doesn't bother you?
I used to go to camp.
But obviously you know that you left your child, just in a very close proximity to that camp.
I don't remember where.
But obviously you were at the camp and you drove from there, so it was somewhere close by. That doesn't kindle those memories, or
They haven't, no.
it's something that just left in the past.
When you were out at the camp, at the time that you got rid of the baby, you were functioning that weekend as a youth counselor, is that correct?
Yes, I think I had a couple of teams.
Okay. Was there any other counselors with you that weekend, or were you the sole?
No, I think I was the only one.
How many teens do you think would have gone with you with just one counselor?
There were 3 or 4 girls.
It was like a weekend-long retreat, or so you stayed a couple nights?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you remember any of those girls' names by chance?
Yes.
Who would they have been?
At the time when they were teenagers, it was Erica and Monica Wilkins. I don't recall. Oh, their older sister might have been there, Chris.
What are Erica and Monica's names now? Do you know what their married names are?
One is Stovall, and I'm trying to blank on.
How old were they then? You said they were teenagers?
Maybe 16, 17.
It's cold, like wintertime. Was there any kind of special purpose for this
It's
camp?
probably a winter retreat.
A winter retreat, so it would have been like spring break maybe, or
No,
no, just a weekend getaway?
right.
You said it doesn't bother you to go out to that camp at all?
Well, it hadn't.
Did you ever wonder what happened, or think about, I wonder what happened?
I think I did for a while after, but then I never heard anything, so I think it just, the kids that I was raising and involved with.
You said you were obviously still with your husband during the pregnancy. You stayed together, and you said he was not aware of it. What measures did you take to hide that pregnancy? You said you were still intimately involved with him. How were you able to keep him from knowing you were pregnant?
Well, like I said, I was always heavy set. So I don't recall really showing or like what it would do.
Did you gain a lot of weight, do you remember?
No, I don't think so. I don't. I think I probably stayed about the same as I always was. I was always over 200, 230 in weight.
Everyone's different pregnancies. Sometimes you gain weight, sometimes you don't. So every time it can be different. Did you take any other steps to try to hide it from Mark?
No.
So you don't want him to know.
Right.
But you don't have to do anything else to keep it from him? You just...
I don't think so.
Since this has all been kindled up in the last 2 weeks, what's going on with you? What is this? What are you feeling right now?
I'm ashamed, embarrassed. I thought about taking a bunch of pills today.
When did you think about that today, when you saw us, or earlier before that?
No, all day.
All day
I
even?
woke up with that feeling.
Are you still thinking about that now?
So when I got myself to go to work, still had it in the back of my mind that I would do that.
And what would the goal of that behavior be, to end your life?
Yes.
Okay.
As I told you earlier, Gail, we don't want to see that. We're not here to judge you.
No. There's a lot of other people judging me right now, and
Like who? Who's judging you right now?
well, myself. God. And my husband knows.
Oh. That is our concern at this point, is your safety. Not only from yourself, but from other people. How do you think Mark will react to this? Are you concerned that has ever been violent with you?
No, never. No, he's been a wonderful husband and father. Couldn't have asked for a better person in my life.
Obviously, this is...
And that's why I struggled so much with trying to tell him or
What about his family? Are they...
oh God. Nobody mentioned. We have a wonderful family.
But how do you think they're going to react? Would you be concerned for your safety from their family?
Not like safety, no. No. I wouldn't be spoken to again.
Where do you think the safest place for you would be right now?
We're not so sure it would be back with Mark. We're not saying it's not safe, but we're not sure how he's going to deal with that. This is something, actually you've known this and battled with it for 26 years. This is something that has been literally dropped in his lap out of nowhere. And I don't know how he's going to react to that. And we're concerned for him and for you. We have no intention of running out of here telling anybody what the crux of our conversation was today. However, you have to understand, over the last 26 years, this was a very big case. And in that regard, I don't know how you didn't know about it. There's been news stories, newspaper articles. Like I said, even as recent as 2016, there was a news story that some of the original investigators did on the news. It was probably that they did on the news. So this is something that, you know, was and is something today very big in the community here in Geauga County. There's people that, like we said, you know, donated clothes, they donated the burial expenses.
There's a headstone. Yeah, there's a headstone and a memorial. They did a ceremony and did a headstone and memorial. And your child is referred to as Geauga's baby.
Because so many members of the community donated different things for your child. And that made me agree. So this is something that is very big in the community. And with that being said, you know, we are concerned for your welfare and, you know, what is the best place for you. So where do you think the best place would it be with your sister, maybe?
Probably not.
No. Why do you think that? We have not told her. We did have a search warrant for her DNA as well, but we did not execute that today. So we have not made contact with her. We have only made contact with you and her husband today.
Where do you think you'd be safest, Gail? Are you still having thoughts or considerations of ending your life or harming yourself?
I guess now that it's all out on the table, I guess probably not.
Do you feel better that it's all out on the table? In some ways, there's got to be some burden left off to you, you know, something you kept in for 26 years.
It's only been something that I've known.
I mean, sometimes those
A
are-
lot of burdens.
What other burdens have you dealt with?
Growing up wasn't easy in my house.
What is that?
My father was an alcoholic 16 years of my life.
That has to do with?
No, he was verbally abusive. So when I said I never thought highly of myself, that's where that comes from.
Dealing with alcohol. And speaking to a lot of your family, I understand that even though your dad was adopted, that was something that was, you know, his parents were not known to be great parents.
I didn't know that.
And, you know, your father and two of his siblings, when your grandmother passed, they were given up for adoption. Your father was only 18 until we were to leave. He was given up for adoption. Is there a place that you can be safe tonight, or that you feel safe?
I don't know. When I left to see work.
I don't know what's going on.
We can check on that.
I'm not going to tell you yes or no. Again, we don't know how Mark is taking this.
Because we haven't seen him yet. He's not here right now. And obviously, if he's highly agitated, I don't want to expose you to any type of risk of harm.
Our concern and our responsibility is your safety at this point. And where's the safest place to be, not only from other people, but from yourself. In talking to you, you've already had thoughts of harming yourself.
Today, I'm going to venture to guess, was not the first time that you considered taking those pills.
It was.
It was the first time. Did you consider harming yourself any days prior to today?
No.
What triggered that today?
Just thoughts in my head.
What were those thoughts, Kim?
Trying to spare, family embarrassment. shame. Didn't want my kids to lose.
Your kids still love you. It's not going to change your life for you. You're still their mother. What was it specifically about today that changed though? Because you've kind of known for probably close to 2 weeks that this day had to be coming.
Right. I knew that what you just said there. And I don't know, I just going over in my head what to do, how to tell Mark.
Did you try to tell them in the last couple of weeks?
Tried in my head to think how to tell him, yes. Like I said, never been good with confrontation. I've gotten better over the years. Ultimately didn't want to do it just because I didn't want my kids coming home and finding me.
You need to think about your kids. Because it's going to harm them even worse. It's done and done, the mistakes you've made. But if you do something like that, it's only going to hurt them even worse. Have you ever seeked any other mental health professionals or seen counselors or anything, Al-Anon, anything like that, to deal with some of the issues from your father? And previous
to be spoken of.
It was just... Have you ever previously had thoughts of harming yourself?
Yeah.
No. It's never been an issue. What is it about your sisters that you don't think will be safe?
Supposed to be safe, but her husband's a police officer.
Did you get along with him?
Yes, I get along with them fine.
Do you think he's gonna, I mean, is there a concern with him, or, I mean, he's
No,
still your
but-
brother-in-law.
I know, but
Yeah,
I
okay.
just don't want to take this into their hands.
And you don't think you'd be safe at your parents' house?
Well, I probably would, but they don't know yet.
Yeah. We haven't told them. I don't know if they've put it together. I don't think that they have. Is there anywhere that you can think of that you would be safe?
I don't want to take my mess into anyone else's house.
As we told you earlier, I'm intent was not to put you in jail for anything. But we do have a duty for your safety as well.
Gail, if we had to talk to a mental health professional, would you be willing to do that? Would you speak with someone if we were able to find someone to talk with you?
Sure.
Let's see if we can get something set up. Gail, we have genuine concerns for your safety at this point.
Yeah.
You may not think so, but we do. So we need to see if we can get something worked out for you. So if there's anything you can think of, I understand that you don't want to bring your issues into somebody else's house, and I respect that. But we also don't know. I mean, your kids don't know. Your husband just found out. We don't know how it's going to go.
Gail, when was the last time you ate today?
So before you left the room.
Before I left the room.
We'll see if we
Do you want me to see if I can find you something to eat?
Well, we'll see if we can get you something, and then it's your choice if you want to eat it, okay?
Okay, give us a little bit of time to find somewhere that we know is going to be able to ensure your safety, okay?
May I proceed?
You may proceed.
So, Detective, after you conducted this interview, did you attempt to verify any of the information provided by the defendant?
We did.
And what are the things that you were able to verify?
We were able to verify that she was a nanny at that time for the Cantor McNulty family in Shaker Heights. And we did speak to 3 of the camp goers that said that they did go to the camp with her sometime in the spring of 1993.
How about things like whether or not she's the mother of the child?
Yes.
And how about the garbage bag?
Yes, and the DNA did match her and the baby on the clear plastic bag inside the garbage bag.
But how about the specifics of the actual birth, about whether it actually happened at that house, whether the child was dumped at the time that she went to the camp? Were you able to verify any of that?
We were not. We were not able to confirm. 26 years later, there would be no physical evidence in the house. We did go there. We did take pictures. So we cannot say definitively that's where the baby was born. The only thing we do know definitively is that it was located in Geauga County, Ohio.
One moment, Your Honor. Detective, were you able to determine where the defendant would have been living back in 1993?
I believe she would have been living. I don't know if I can answer that.
Was that something you looked into?
We were given a different address.
Okay. But generally, do you know about how far that was, miles or travel time between that and the camp?
Her parents' house would be 35 minutes, I would say.
One moment. Thank you, I have nothing further.
Mr. Bradley?
We have no questions of the detective. Thank you, Judge.
Okay, thank you very much. Any further witnesses, Ms. Burley?
No, Your Honor, Detective Seacole is our last witness.
You may step down. Thank you for your time. Mr. Burling, how would you like to proceed with this case?
Well, Your Honor, obviously we'll make a motion regarding our exhibits, but other than that, the state would be resting at this point.
All right, thank you. Okay, and this appears to be an appropriate time to break. So I'm going to excuse you. There's no anticipation that we would be calling you back in the room prior to the lunch hour anyway. So you can begin your lunch hour as soon as we adjourn you from here. Same admonition regarding not discussing the case because you still haven't received all the evidence that might be submitted. And so please withhold any judgment, any discussion. Please check anything independently on your own, whether it be media or Facebook, Twitter, anything else that you might communicate with in a device. I think that covers it all, so we are adjourned. You should talk about when we come back. I'm looking for some input, but my suggestion would be about 1 o'clock.
Can we approach?
Sure. Have to be dealt with also, and it's unfortunate that in a sense that we can't plow ahead this afternoon after lunch, but the reality is it appears that we will not be able to do so. So instead, I'm instructing you to come back on a Saturday tomorrow morning and we'll carry on the case from that time. So same instructions, but this time you don't have to come back here. And we will see you all at, it's Saturday. I'm thinking here 8:30, I guess would still, why don't you all be here by 8:30 and we'll make sure we are beginning very quickly after that then. Okay, this time you can leave. Thank you. Okay, let's carry on with the appropriate motions.
So, Your Honor, I think at this point, the state would move to admit its exhibits 1 through 15. We did have a list of number 16, a photo of the defendant, which we did not use, but the rest are, I think we report as
I have the list,
exhibits.
yes.
We would move to admit the remaining exhibits.
Okay, and so you said it's 1 through 16?
1 through 15, we did not present number 16.
Okay. Mr. Bradley, any response?
I don't think we have any objections.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Let me look at these. How's this going? You look correct. Right? Your Honor, respectfully, we object to the admission of State's Exhibit 15, which is a report that was generated during the course of the pendency of this case by Dr. Philo. We've already heard his testimony. His testimony is what's before the jury, not a report that was done at the request of the prosecutor's office after we had filed a motion requesting a Dahlberg hearing.
Mr. Burling, do you want to respond?
Judge, this is an expert report highlighting Dr. Philo's testimony. The defense did not object when Dr. Philo relied on his report when testifying. Expert reports are admitted all the time. I find it disingenuous that they're not objecting to the autopsy report, but are objecting to Dr. Philo's report, which essentially highlights his own opinion of what's contained in the autopsy report.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'm going to admit all of the exhibits with the exception of 15 that I'm simply reserving judgment on to give myself some time to think, but otherwise the balance of them, and of course not 16, would be admitted.
Judge, by any chance, do you have a rule book of the Ohio Rules of Evidence in the courtroom?
I don't believe it's in the courtroom, no.
If you can give me a moment, I think the Ohio Rules of Evidence would be sufficient in and of themselves to support the inadmissibility of that report. And if I can...
Well, I'm going to reserve judgment anyway, Mr. Marine, so
right.
Why don't you just be prepared tomorrow to address the additional argument you might want to make on that point.
No problem.
Is there anything you need? Okay. So, Mr. Burnham, on behalf of the state, anything further you wish to bring to my attention now?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Okay. Does the defense have anything they want on the record?
Judge, we do intend to, of course, move the court for judgment of acquittal pursuant to Criminal Rule 29A. We also anticipate that we'll be filing a written memorandum in support of that motion. It's prepared and ready to go, and we were just going to use the break to file that written motion. And ultimately, we want to have the prosecutor have the opportunity to review that. I was hoping that we could address that first thing tomorrow morning.
It sounds like a good plan since we have the luxury of
Right.
this afternoon. All right. Anything else?
Nothing else.
But Judge, while you are making a determination as to the admissibility of State's Exhibit 15, I would request that you take a look at Rule 803-8 of the Ohio Rules of Evidence. And I think that rule in and of itself would support our request. Just
All right.
want to bring it to your attention.
Thank you. And Mr. Burley, you'll get a chance to respond to. Okay, then I guess we are, unless I'm missing something, we can adjourn for the day, with the plan being that the attorneys please be present by 8 o'clock tomorrow. That'll give us at least a half hour before the jury expects to commence again, and we'll go from there.
Very good.
Okay. We're adjourned. Thank you.
Okay, I got it.
He is, I'm sorry.